Good evening. My name is Lexi, and welcome to SomaCinema, a series dedicated to exploring the cinematic language with gentle video essays about your favorite films. On today's episode, we will be analyzing the 1978 drama Interiors. Enjoy the show. Woody Allen's 1978 chamber drama Interiors is quite unlike most other films in his oeuvre. Interiors is purposefully humorless, somber, and nearly devoid of music. It is an aggressively serious film that is nonetheless deeply expressive in its Spartan filmmaking. The minimalist style works as a container for the well of repressed emotion and familial toxicity that drive the narrative. The apparent aesthetic neutrality of the mise-en-scène is merely a very well-disguised wolf. The mother, Eve, is a rigid and icy woman with unnamed emotional problems that point towards narcissistic disorientation. Eve is an artist, an interior decorator whose personal style is made up of neutral tones, clean lines, and minimalist furnishings. Her artistic output prizes materiality and control over surface appearances. Oldest daughter Renata is a successful novelist with all the appearance of functionality. In truth, she is blocked, disconnected from her daughter, and stifled by her insecure novelist husband Frederick. Middle child Joey is the most affected by the overbearing Eve and Eve's pervasive aesthetic. Immobilized by indecision, Joey finds herself in a constant state of fight or flight, icy and rigid against her will. Joey's relationship with her mother forms the dramatic core of the film and is mirrored in nearly every aspect of the filmmaking. Interiors is a very tightly constructed film, a fitting representation of Eve's personality. The film contains many repetitive motifs. Empty vases litter the set, along with table lamps that call back to a scene to be shortly discussed, where a lamp is representative of Eve's influence on Joey's life. Eve is constantly closing windows and sealing herself from the outside world. Her daughters can frequently be found gazing wistfully out of windows, as though trapped inside. Scenes are lit naturally in great windowed rooms filled with diffused sunlight, or spotted with the glow of warm, shaded table lamps. Early in the film, Eve says that her colors are beige and earth tones, which make up most of the color palette, along with gray, which is mentioned specifically by Eve early in the film. The ubiquity of these colors, the lamps, even the very sunlight from the windows, inform the incredible psychological influence Eve has over her family. The initial thrust of the film lies in the reorientation of the family unit when the father, Arthur, announces that he is separating from Eve. But this event is only the catalyst for the breakdown of long-standing familial toxicity that boils over as the story unfolds. The true conflict concerns creativity, the value of a person based on artistic output, and how those things relate to a lack of mature individuation from an emotionally demanding parent. In Interiors, artistic output, or lack thereof, is synonymous with maternal love. The constant ambivalent threat of maternal withdrawal creates and sustains the crippling neuroses experienced by Joey and Renata. As babies and young children, we experience a period wherein we are psychically connected to our mothers. A mother can be anyone who is the primary caregiver of the child. Being connected to our mothers is a matter of survival. She is who feeds us, keeps us alive, and protects us from predators. It is a time when the child does not easily differentiate where they end and the mother begins. Ideally, the mother will encourage individuation as the child matures, encouraging them to enter the world as independent adults. If this does not happen, then adulthood cannot begin in earnest. A role reversal occurs wherein the child becomes parentified, expected to hold and interpret the emotions of the parent instead of the other way around. Mother's love becomes weaponized and conditional on the actions of the parentified child. An early scene succinctly demonstrates just how thoroughly Joey has been consumed and parentified by Eve. On a visit to Joey's apartment, Eve spends most of her time discussing how she is going to decorate and remodel Joey's home. She brings a vase that looks suspiciously like the vase she wants to replace it with. She fusses with a lamp that she believes belongs in the bedroom and takes it there. Once in the bedroom, the scene is framed with Eve in the center, from the waist up, placing the lamp on a table. In front of her is a white wall, and to her left is a nondescript watercolor that is nearly all white. The camera then follows Eve as she walks to the left, still framing her above the waist, mostly centered, and displaying nothing behind her but a white wall. The camera comes to settle as Eve sits down on a low bench, where Joey soon joins her. There, the camera remains until the conclusion of the scene. At the end of the scene, it's notable that Joey exits the frame in anger, while Eve remains. If we consider the bedroom as a portal to the interior space of the mind, then we can see what sort of emotional tyranny is going on in this scene. A bedroom is where we go to relax, sleep, and experience our interior world and the unconscious by dreaming. We can also assume that Joey is sharing this bedroom with her partner, which would make it a space of sexual and emotional intimacy with her spouse. The way this scene is constructed does not denote any of that. There is nothing we could reasonably interpret as bedroom. We see nothing but a bench, a painting, and the top of a lamp. We only know it's the bedroom because the characters told us. The cinematographic refusal to allow anything else in the frame is significant. There are no personal items. We see nothing of Joey and Mike in this room. Later in the film, we even see a version of the painting hanging in Eve's apartment. Eve occupies the space comfortably. The camera follows her, not Joey. Eve places things inside the room and feels at liberty to dictate the design aesthetic of her daughter's most intimate space. Eve controls the room, and Eve controls Joey. There is an exquisite simplicity to this scene, where absence is the signifier and deprivation the style. It demonstrates the absolute psychic control Eve has over Joey, as she literally and figuratively occupies her daughter's interior world. Not once does Eve demonstrate an ounce of real care for Joey. Joey is taken for granted as an extension of herself. During Renata's flashback to the dinner where Arthur announced his departure, there is a brief silence following his speech. Suddenly Eve erupts, turns to Joey, and shouts at her to stop breathing so loudly. Eve's immediate reaction to this news is to attack her daughter, externalize her fear and pain, and place it inside Joey. Naturally, Joey is immobilized. She is haunted and unknown to herself. Repeatedly does Joey discuss her artistic immobilization. She desperately wants to create and complains that she is filled with emotion she has no idea how to express. It is a very particular source of pain because of how wound up creation is with Eve. Eve is taken seriously as an artist. Eve is encouraged by Joey to the point of being allowed artistic control over Joey's home. Eve is everywhere, and there is no room for Joey. Because this lack of emotional space causes Joey pain, and because to express that pain would be a direct reaction to being cannibalized by her mother, she cannot express it without risking the withdrawal of maternal love. Such a thing would be unthinkable, as Joey is unclear where she ends and her mother begins. In contrast, Renata is a successful novelist, greatly admired by Eve. Eve is not concerned with controlling Renata. Renata is often portrayed as an observer, deeply troubled by her family's dynamic, which nonetheless infects her. In visits to Renata's home, which Eve quite pointedly never enters, we see personal items, where in Joey's there were none. It is poignant that the only personal objects in Renata's home are books. Renata's art is what makes her mother value her, and the inclusion of the books suggests that this aspect of personal identity is only permissible based on Eve's values and vanity. The filmmaking of Renata's home is also much more alive and manic when set next to similar scenes in Joey's home. Renata walks around and fills her space, while Joey remains static. Renata has achieved a measure of individuation from her mother, but she is still parentified in her role as Frederick's wife. The subjects of their conflicts mirror those between Eve and Joey. Frederick is constantly positioning Renata to give artistic validation, while feeling emasculated and jealous of her success among the literary intelligentsia. He lashes out at her and spits back the validation as dishonest flattery. Throughout most of the film, the father, Arthur, has been away on a protracted trip to Greece. He and Eve are on a trial separation, but this is only his way of letting her down gently. Arthur has met another woman, Pearl, and he plans to marry her. Pearl is the antithesis of Eve, an artless but pleasant and cheerful woman. She cares not for high culture and confuses the snobby family with her forthrightness and declarations that she prefers white sand and blue water to historical sites or art museums. Notably, she is wearing red in a world made of gray and beige. Naturally, Renata and Joey hate her. Pearl's love and values have nothing to do with art or expectation. She is free and demonstrative. It terrifies the daughters. For them, maternal love is icy rigidity. Anything else is unknown and suspicious. Arthur is keen to use Pearl to move his family forward, and desperate to spend his golden years drama-free. In a sweeping act of psychoanalytic transparency, Eve commits suicide by walking into the ocean on the night of Arthur and Pearl's wedding. Joey attempts to rescue her, only to be brought back to the land by Mike, and then literally have the life breathed into her by new mother Pearl. It certainly tracks with what's been going on, but the compulsion to wrap the narrative up in the most optimal psychological outcome feels like a fantasy compared to the emotional brutality of the preceding 90 minutes. If only it were so simple to quickly replace a toxic parental figure with a benign one. With Eve gone, the film ends with voiceover narration from Joey writing in her journal. Finally free of her mother's clutches, she can begin the hard task of finding her own voice and identity. In one of many nods to Ingmar Bergman, the film ends with the sisters standing before a window as they have many times before. They enter by order of birth and gaze at the ocean. Joey says that the water is calm, and Renata agrees.